and welcome to the Sugar Bell Review, a program dedicated to learning about the people, places, and policies that make up the Bellbrook Sugar Creek community. Tonight, on this Wednesday night, we have with us David Carpenter from the Board of Education, who's come in to tell us a little bit about himself. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So, obviously, we know that you're on the Board of Education,
right.
But there's got to be far more to you as a person. So I was hoping we could
yes.
we could find out a little bit more, because I mean, I know you work outside. You have a day job essentially.
Right, I do.
Okay, and a family and
right, all those things. I work in healthcare,
okay.
and I'm information technology. I'm not a clinician, but in healthcare, we work with in my specific area on helping people stay healthy. So we make sure we keep track of people's preventive care visits, how they're doing with their chronic disease management and so forth, and make sure that they get the preventive care and chronic care that they need on a regular basis. So
okay.
you use data in a variety of ways to help people make sure they get the care they need.
Oh, that's cool. How long have you been doing that?
I've been with the system for almost 14 years. I switched from a manufacturing environment to healthcare, and all the acronyms that make sense in one business appear in the other business, but they mean very different things. So, like ROI isn't return on investments; it's release of information. And after a while, it's like I had to make flashcards so I could figure out what.
It's like learning a whole other language.
It is. It's very much a whole new language. So.
Well, that's really neat.
So that's been good. That's been good. I'm married for 38 years. My wife, Mary Ellen, is a teacher in the district. Both of my children went through Bellbrook schools, from kindergarten all the way through graduation. And now they're, on their own. They each have children of their own. I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
So I'm very excited about that. So
that sounds like fun.
Yep, it's good. It's good.
All right, I have to ask, we were just discussing your bow ties, because they are such a part of who you seem to be as a person. Now, when did that become sort of your staple or signature look?
Okay, good question. I started wearing bow ties when my son was about 4, and he's 31 now. So, in fact, the first time I was going to surprise my wife and have a bow tie to wear to a Christmas party, and so I ordered it and I got the instructions, and I probably spent 30 minutes in front of the mirror, looking at it and then looking in the mirror and then looking,
getting it right.
My arms were broken by the time I was, by the time I was done. And when I was all finished, it was like, it's the same as tying your shoes. Why didn't they just say it's like tying your shoes? And it would have been a flash, and it is. It's very much like tying your shoes.
And it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, that's right. They're not hard to tie. Like here's the
half
knot.
The basic knot.
So it's a half knot. You make sure it's about the same length each direction. You make a loop like you do when you're tying your shoes, and you pull the other one through like you do when you're tying your shoes, and even it up a little bit, then, which is kind of hard to do without a mirror, but
it's okay. It works well.
Did I get it?
Not quite.
Not quite.
There you go.
There we go. I can
So how many bow ties do you have?
Probably around 60.
My goodness.
It's way too many, but
hey, when you got a hobby.
I know. I'll get a bow tie as a souvenir when I'm on vacation, and not a T-shirt. So that's.
Well, yeah, some people have 60 T-shirts from different places.
They do.
You've got 60 bow ties.
That's right.
That totally makes sense.
So
Now I have to ask. This is lovely.
Thank you.
But you'll need to explain it.
Sure. For about 12 years, I've been hybridizing daylilies. So daylilies are, they have a bloom that lasts one day, which is how it gets the name. And the American Hemerocallis Society has about 5,000 different named varieties, because you can cross-pollinate with different colors and so forth, and come up with different characteristics. So this is one that I hybridized in 2009. And its parents are Stella de Oro, which is one of the ones you see. It's very prolific. It's the gold ones you see all around the community.
Okay.
And then the other parent is a purple one called Barberry Corsair. So this is the result. It takes years to get a mature plant that will really produce blooms on a regular basis. So this plant is 11 years old, and
Looks very healthy.
and doing real well. It's about to the point where it can start to be divided and shared with other people. So,
Oh, neat.
so-
So is this the only one you have?
Oh no, I've registered 4 different varieties with the American Hemerocallis Society. The first one I registered is called Urban, and which is kind of seems like an odd name, but a friend of mine, his father passed away, and I asked him, he's a gardener, and I asked him what could I get for him to plant in his yard that would be a memento to remind him of his dad. And he said, well, my dad really liked red flowers, and if you have a hybrid that you've made that fits that, I would really like to have one of your hybrids. And so the one I gave him is mostly red, a little bit of gold, and I registered with his father's name. His father's name was Urban, so that's why it's called that. So I have 3 others that are registered, and they're named after my wife and my daughter-in-law. So now my wife's Mary Ellen, and their Mary Ellen name was already taken. And I checked on Diana, and there's like 25 different ones that start with Diana. So hers is with her maiden name, so hers is called Miss Fish.
Miss Fish.
Yeah, sorry, hers is her maiden name. So.
Which, given the fact that I know you read like things like red fish, blue fish.
Oh yeah.
In her classroom, that seems equally fitting.
So yeah.
Memorize and recite,
right.
but.
I hadn't made that connection, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm like, that actually kind of is kind of cute. So what other hobbies do you have? I mean, bow tie collecting and flower breeding?
Yeah, hybridizing.
Hybridizing.
I like to ride bikes. So I was a runner for a number of years. Not running as much these days, but cycling. And I got really got enthused about it by participating in a fundraiser that was for my college choir between my junior and senior years in college. And so we bicycled starting in Loveland Pass, Colorado, and ended at Independence Hall, Philadelphia. Took us 30 days of cycling. It was in 1976, and interestingly enough, we averaged 76 miles a day. So we took one day off. We took Independence Day off because it was the bicentennial, and we were in a little camper park in Kansas, and we cooked real meat over the campfire that day.
Real food.
The vast majority of days it was peanut butter and jelly. But
that sounds like a real adventure.
when you're 20 years old, you can get away with it.
Well, you were saying you still had the same bike too, which is very impressive.
I had the same bike. It seems some tough times. So the place that takes care of it, I'm not a mechanic. Takes good care of it, and they kind of admire it every time it arrives and say things like, "Oh, my dad used to have one of those." So I have a lot of sentimental value attachment to it. So
That's really sweet.
But I like riding it.
You like riding? Well, you must.
I do. Yeah.
And any other hobbies?
Oh, I don't know. Nothing coming to mind right now as far as a hobby goes. I've been involved in scouting for a number of years. When my son first joined scouting, I was an assistant scoutmaster for 4 years, and then the scoutmaster for 7 after that.
Oh.
He graduated from high school. He was off to college, and I was still doing it for a couple of years beyond that.
Must be an adventure in and of itself, too.
It is. You know, scouting it's interesting that you, as an adult, I got to do a lot more fun things as an adult leader that I probably never had the chance to do. My son and I did 12-day backpacking adventure in the Rocky Mountains at Philmont in New Mexico. Got to spend a week at summer camp every year, which was great. You know,
It does sound like fun.
It is. It was a lot of fun. We usually took our scouts outside of the area, so that we would have something, you know, adventurous for the older scouts. You know, and once you've been to a local camp for 2 or 3 times, there's not the same sense of enthusiasm. So we would go to camps like in Virginia or North Carolina, Tennessee, take them a good distance away, so that they had, you know, some sense of adventure in doing that. And then also for the younger scouts, so that if they got a little homesick, they didn't, you know, drive the 20 miles home and call mom and dad and say, "Come get me," you know.
Gives them a little experience of being on their own.
That's right. Yeah. We would say if you're going to come during the week, you know, to visit your scout, come at the beginning and leave halfway, or come halfway and stay to the end. But don't come and leave, because that's hard on a young scout.
Wow, that sounds like fun.
So it was great. It was great. Made a lot of good friends. There are people who are involved in scouting. There's a lot of really great people. So that's a. And
it was all local, because you guys have been local the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
I've lived here for 43 years.
That's a lot of time.
I'm a transplant. Yeah.
It's been here a while.
Yeah, I've been here a while.
You've seen a lot of the changes and the growth. Yeah.
In fact, Wilmington Pike was a two-lane road with no Taco Bell even when I first
Taco
moved
Bell
out
is
to
the
the
standard.
area. It was the first thing to be built on Wilmington Pike. There was no 675, you know, and I went to church at Hope, which is now near the 675 interchange, and it was cornfields everywhere around it. You know, there wasn't anything until you got down to 725 when they had a 7-Eleven that's now gone because the street is in place of it now. So, but it's a lot of changes here in Bellbrook.
Yes, it sounds like it. And before we sign off for the evening, I did want to ask, because you are on the Board of Education, and that's why we kind of wanted to get to know you as a person outside of that. But I did want to know, why did you decide to run for the Board of Education?
Great question. One of the things that I was heavily involved with in scouting is adult leader training, primarily on leadership. And the styles of leadership have changed quite dramatically over the last 20, 30 years. And they really had a great program on leadership that I really wanted to help bring to the school district. You know, there was a fair amount of command and control, about 10 years ago. And migrating to a more of a participative leadership style was something that I wanted to help bring. Plus, I wasn't involved in scouting, and I really wanted to be, contributing to the community as a whole. So those were really the key motivating factors to be involved. So.
And reciting Dr. Seuss in class once a year isn't enough.
That's great. That's great. I get to tell the Sneetches and What Was I Scared Of and Gertrude McFuzz. The nice thing about all of those is that they tell good. It's great moral stories that the kids catch without having it, blared in front of them. Mm-hmm. It's like you come to the right conclusions without having somebody tell you what the conclusion is. But it's great fun to get up in front and be silly and tell them from memory and have the kids be completely enthralled. It's exciting. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for bringing a little bit of that fun here tonight.
That's my pleasure.
Wednesday evening. And thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you tuning in every couple of days or so. Next time, we'll be back on Sunday with Virginia Sluffman, another Board of Education member. So we hope you tune in on Sunday as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks.